Hey there guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm sorry that I didn't show the finished project at the beginning of the video, but we're just gonna zoom through this. There is two parts to it, so I hope you'll join me for the second part. What I did is I got a Sizzix die, and I did show, kind of flashed it at the beginning here. I wanted to use a Sizzix frame, but I didn't want those two little notches on the sides, so what I did is just cut the chipboard enough to get the frame. So I'm just going to cut that out really quick, and then I'll show you exactly what I did to get rid of those little circular thingy mabobs. I don't need the inside or anything, but I'll use the inside for some scraps or something later on. We'll see. But I really like the shape of the die. As you can see here, I did take off the little edge, and it looks, to me it looks better. I don't know. I didn't really like the little circles on the edges, so it just seemed like ears that stick out, and it didn't look right to me. Not that there's anything wrong with ears that stick out. Okay, so here I'm using my craft knife and my old, my old mat, a self-healing mat, and I'm just carefully slicing away at the edge, and I'm going to use my arrow here so you can see, but that inside part I wanted to mimic it, so it stuck out too, so just to mimic the inside part of the frame. So I'm out of frame here, I'm sorry, but I did use my emery board to smooth it out. So I'm using some full coat paint in burnt umber, and for some reason this paint is really thick, so I did have to dilute a little bit. I'm using some crackle medium as well because I'm going to use the top coat to bring out that chocolatey brown. I wanted to do a crackled finish on this frame, so I'm just going to paint this stuff on, and it's a really nice color. It has a red tone to it, a really deep red. It's just so chocolatey. I really like the color. So not only do I paint just the top part of the frame, but I like to also paint the edges, like the outside edges and then the inside edges, because to me it just looks more complete, more clean, and yeah, that's why. And I let my paint dry in between the coats, especially when I use the crackle medium, because I tend to do 3 layers. So your base coat, your crackle, and then the top coat. So I let it dry completely, and I actually did this overnight. I painted them and went to bed, and it was just nice and dry, ready for the crackle effect. So I'm just painting it on. I'm going in the same direction here with both the base coat and the crackle medium. And I thought that I had messed up because when I started to put the top coat, I was going in the opposite direction as what you're seeing here. And it wasn't until like I was done that I was like, oh my gosh, I did it the wrong way. But it dried perfectly. The crackle came out just awesome, and it was very consistent throughout. It wasn't too chunky on some areas. It was very nice and even. I really liked it. So I just did it on all of them, went the opposite direction. And I believe on the crackle medium bottle it says to go all in the same direction, but whatever. It worked out fine for me. So this is just a really cool technique to do the crackling, and um, actually my bottle has stretched out, and it's come a long way, and I still have like over half the bottle, and I've used it a lot. So because you don't need too much of it, you just need to just brush it on. So I was trying to show it, but it was kind of hard. And this camera is not all that good, but it does help me where I can use Windows Movie Maker and edit. So, but you'll see there's close-up pictures on my blog if you guys are interested. You can see the details and stuff. It's just awesome. I love my cell phone camera. And here I'm using a wreath that you use for a centerpiece, like on a tabletop with like a candle jar or something. And I'm just taking the little twisties off that was using it to tie this thing in the circular shape that it was. Hi, Charlie. My dog's here. She's wanting me to love on her. So I'm just pulling all the little pieces like out so I can see if they're in bundles or in singular, and it's just easier for me to see and pull apart. So I picked every single piece off of here because I really thought that I was going to use it all, but I still have quite a few little pieces sitting on my table here on my workstation that I'll probably just put in a bag or something and use for next year. I love, love, love all the little stuff that's on here. The little acorns to the little pumpkins to the berries and then the leaves. So I just basically pick up off all of the like paper, the extra paper and stuff. Here I wanted to keep some of the stem part to create like the vine or like the core part of the pumpkin. You know how it twirls as it's growing and stuff. Because they grow on vines, the pumpkins do, like squashes do. And I wanted to create that, so that's why I'm kind of curling it. And I flattened that out later because it looks a little weird there. But on the acorns, on some, I cut the wire completely off, but on others, I just left the little stem like that. This is a bundle of like I think they're silk flower geraniums, and I don't know, I can't remember if I got it at a yard sale or where I found them, but I loved the texture of it. I loved the size of it, and yeah, I picked some of them apart. You'll see later what I did with them. Here's a bag of those plastic like leaves, but the colors were just awesome, very vibrant colors, and of course fall colors and stuff. It's beautiful. The paper that I used, I really liked the pattern on here because it brought in some different colors, opposite of like the leaf colors, like the oranges and stuff. So I had a lot of the chocolate browns and the tans and some green. So I really like it. So I got it from that paper pad that I showed there. Me and my big ideas. So I just cut them to size. They're just a little bit smaller than the actual chipboard mat shape that I'm gonna adhere it to. And I use my Tim Holtz distresser to just distress the edges a little bit. And I love to do that. And that's just a basic way to distress your paper is to use the distressor. And I'm using the bundled sage, I believe it is here. I'm getting distracted by Charlie, I'm sorry. Um, so I wanted to also use the vintage photo with it because I wanted the green on there to look like it's been there, and then use the vintage photo to give it more of the aged look. So I'm trying to take away a little bit of the green off of the edges. Sit down, Charlie. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. And it's great. The edges when they're distressed like that, it captures and pulls in the ink really well. So it does create a framed look. I will end up using a little bit of the vintage photo um, just on the edges to I mean just barely on the edge like to border it or to frame it a little bit better. I'll show you here. I just want to do a little bit of the edges. I don't want to pull it in too much. So you basically start on the mat and then you work your way into on and onto the paper. So I'm just doing like maybe half of the foam pad with the ink, and you can see that the brown is staining the paper. Um, See the difference there. See some of the green and then the vintage photo. So I did it to all of them. See how it kind of creates a I don't know. I like the way that it looks. It just looks vintage and it frames it really nice. So I did it to every single piece, and I'll show you all of the pieces of them done right there. They look really nice. I loved how the green pulled out the green already that was in the paper. So I'm going to use some Distress Crackle paint, and I use it just around the edges because the paper is going to cover the main area of the chipboard. I thought I had recorded this part when I was applying it, but I didn't push the record button hard enough where it caught, and I didn't realize it until after. So I apologize for that. I did that on a couple different things here too. So I want to use some Distress ink, that vintage photo there, to kind of just wipe the ink onto the crackle part of the chipboard because if the ink gets into the cracks and stuff, it pops more. You can see it a lot more in detail. I like that look. So this is another thing that I thought that I recorded and I didn't. So I got to watch myself now that I'm noticing that I'm not catching myself. But I did make little tears in the papers to distress it more, to give it more like just that peeling wallpaper or that peeled wallpaper look technique that a lot of us do when we're doing a grungy or aged kind of a distressed look to a project. So I started to use some of my matte accent to glue it down, but when you leave the little lines of the glue, it was too bumpy and I didn't like it. So I did that to one of them and I didn't like it. So I decided to use my Mod Podge. And because Mod Podge dries very quickly, I applied in sections. And it's just easier that way for me. If I was to try to apply it to the whole thing, a lot of it would just dry before I can get it down. So I apply it and I stick it down, press it in, kind of work the glue down, and kind of create the suction and the stickiness onto the chipboard there. And then I'm doing the middle section here. So I'm just doing just a part, and I'm smoothing it out, and it really helps to not create bubbles and stuff. So I press out as much as I can as I go. If you hear like chomping, it's Charlie chewing on her bone that she's had forever. So here's the last section. And you can tell even here that the tearing of the paper, I mean, it's not a double-sided paper, obviously, so you can see a lot of the white from the backside in the curls of the paper. So I am going to end up using some distress ink on these while it's on the chipboard, because um, it's just too bright and it looks like it's obviously handmade. So what I do throughout my projects is when I make my pieces and stuff, I do placements, arrangements, see kind of how and where I want to put things. If I want to, still use like the squashes or the acorns or the leaves or what, and I kind of look at the colors and stuff and make sure that everything is working well together. So I'm in the habit of doing that on pretty much every project. So there's those geraniums. I end up just leaving a piece of the stem off, but they're not connected in the twos like they were there. So I'm using the bundle sage again, just to be consistent with what I already used on the paper. So I'm just going to use my distress tool and ink it up and just apply it to the white areas. And I'm trying to get in there really well, but not too dark. And it's going to have that green glow to it from the ink. So what I do, well, I'm trying to show you here kind of how I'm just rubbing it on. So yeah, it's coming back and forth, so I have to make sure that the ink adheres to the paper. But I do use vintage photo after this as well to distress the paper, age the paper a little bit more. But the bundle sage here I also use on the edge, like where the scallops are there, to kind of get some of the green onto the cracks of the crackle paint that's already around the edge. So it's really fun. I love distressing. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Here's a vintage photo, and I'm just gonna apply that to um, the little tears. So I did that to every single piece, and I noticed that on some of those parts there the ink's like a little bit more darker just in those areas where the tears are, but it's okay. It looks fine after and it's all done and finished. So I bought this reel, I guess it is, of grapevine, the twigs and stuff from it, because it has a lot of these little curly pieces, and they're just thin enough where you can use them on projects, and you can actually make, a nice big garland for your wall or whatever and decorate it. But I took the pieces because I wanted to create what may look like just like a spray, like a flower spray type thing, but I wanted to make my own, kind of to stay consistent to somewhat of the same design that's on the Christmas side, with the dry pine needles and stuff. So I use this jute packaging twine and just bundle them together, kind of making the lengths of them kind of either all uneven. There's some long pieces, some short pieces and stuff. So I just wrap it around that like 3 times, and then I knot it twice. And then the excess that's hanging off, I just clip it off. I forgot to mention that I was able to adjust the volume of my headset, so I'm hoping that you guys can hear me a lot louder, a lot clearer than the last video. So I apologize that there's a difference there, but I hope that you guys can hear me a lot better. Let me know. So what I do with my chipboard a lot, my scraps of chipboard, is that I cut pieces of it. Sometimes I use 1 layer, sometimes I use 2. Here I'm using 2. I'm making my own dimensionals. For one, it's a little stronger, and I just like the way it looks. I don't like to use like the dimensional foam stickers that you can use. I do on some things, but on like frames and whatnot, I like to use my chipboard. And the reason is just because I think that putting a picture back there, and if you want to switch out your paper, sometimes the papers from the photos get stuck on the 3D dimensional stickers. So that bugs me for some reason. So anyways, I did that. So see how it's like elevated? And you can slide your photo in and out really easy. I ended up making a mat for it. So come back and watch part 2, you guys. Thanks for watching this part.